and a remembrance of Nick, the way he wanted it. And I'm happy to do it for him that way. He and I were very close. I loved him dearly. And he loved his entire family, but he and I were the only two in Dublin. So I'm conducting this. I'm the master of ceremonies. Nick, as we all know, outwardly demonstrated a little bit of a cavalier attitude towards his religion. None of us thought that he ever thought about it or did anything about it, but in fact, I'm happy to say that he was a God-fearing man. And he asked Father Philip Tierney of Glenstone Abbey, a young teacher, he's still a very young man, a young teacher who taught Nick at school, in fact taught Simon and I too, to come and say a few prayers. But he said, just a few prayers, I don't want a church service, not going to be in a church. Philip kindly attended, came up from Glenstone and attended Nick, took his instructions and said he'd be very happy to do it for him. So the family are very grateful to Father Philip Tierney for taking the time and the trouble to do this. I can say, because it did amaze, not amaze, but I was surprised that Nick wanted any religious aspect to his funeral. I will say this, that having been educated in Glenstone Abbey as the rest of us were, the rest of the boys I'm talking about, once a Benedictine, always a Benedictine. I don't think you can get the Benedictine out of the boy, can you, Father? So, on that basis, we're going to proceed. I've prepared a program which has been kindly put together, printed here in the Yacht Club, and you'll have seen the proceedings and how we're going to proceed. So the first item is the placing of various mementos and items which are a recollection of Nick and which Nick loved, and these will be placed by a number of his friends, families, and family, one by one member of the family. The rest will be by his friends whom he spent a lot of time and whom had a lot of time for him too. And I'm going to go through them, and as each piece, or just before each piece is to be placed, I'm going to explain the reason why. Nick didn't ask for this. It's something that we decided ourselves would be a nice memento, and in this the flag officers and members of the club came up with a number of very good suggestions, some of which will amuse you. So the first item.
Can you sit down, Andrew?
Oh, I beg your pardon. I thought Philip was telling me to slow down. And I beg your pardon. Just because I'm standing. Got it wrong. Got it wrong. So let's go ahead from here, sitting down this time. The first item is going to be brought up by my wife, Mary. He spent a lot of time with our family, and he and Mary got on extremely well. And she's going to place a typical photograph of Nick on the coffin. Relaxed, and either coming to or going to or coming from some form of entertainment. So Mary will place that on the coffin. I'll comment about the coffin. You'll see it's of a nautical nature. We chose this as we think it's very appropriate in view of Nick's membership here at Howth and his activities with so many of them. The next item will be placed by John Gore Grimes, and it's the Irish Cruising Club ensign. It's in remembrance of the two great Arctic expeditions that Nick made with John on John's yacht Arctic Fern just at the turn of this century. He felt at the time very privileged to be invited by John, and he felt one of a selected few. He loved the trips, he talked a lot about them, came back with lots of photographs. Nick is a member of the Irish Cruising Club, and indeed, I believe he was also a member of the Ocean Cruising Club, and I'm told that he was the Ocean Cruising Club's port officer here in Howth. So John might place that on the coffin. Thank you, John.
If I might just say, Nick generously gave this flag to the Russians in a small coal mining port in the Arctic, and I, as proprietor of the flag, took it back. So.
Very typical Nick, giving away what wasn't his. Now, the next item is the Howth Yacht Club ensign, and this will be placed by Kieran Jemison, one of Nick's great friends and sailing buddies of many years. Nick sailed on Changeling, Kieran's boat, many a time and oft, and it reminds us that Nick found a new life following Catherine's death here in Howth, and it's thanks to all of you that he was able to come back from the tragic loss he suffered. And this is due to the warmth and welcome of the members of the Howth Yacht Club and all the sailors in it. Thank you, Kieran. I know I'm small, but I'm not quite as small as this. It's my eyesight, actually. The next item moves on from sailing. It moves to Nick's illness. He became ill over 3 years ago, and as a result he couldn't really partake in sailing. He tried once or twice, but he found it difficult. And Dave Murnan of the Aqua restaurant here in Howth kindly gave Nick something to occupy his time, and as with everyone in Howth, they always looked after Nick and saw that he was happy, which he was, extremely happy. Dave runs the Aqua restaurant, and he has a vegetable plot, an allotment up on a beautiful spot on the top of the hill of Howth. And he asked Nick, would he be his advisor? And Nick readily did so. He had the experience, and it reminded him of his garden, vegetable and herb garden at Dundairy Lodge. And Nick loved it and showed it off with pride, and in particular he loved giving orders. So we decided to place vegetables and flowers instead, I beg your pardon, vegetables and herbs instead of flowers. And Dave has these vegetables and flowers, vegetables and herbs, I beg your pardon, are from Dave's allotment. And thank you very much indeed for doing that, Dave. Nick would appreciate that no end. Finally,